Welcome to this live chat facility tutorial. We have had a lot of questions recently about the chat facility and how to use it, so let's get into the video. The chat facility is built with students in mind, with a tool that doesn't need to be parent or teacher led. Each of our pages are linked to the person behind the broadcast, even after it's finished, so you can always ask your questions and get a response about the broadcast. So, let's have a look at how to use the chat facility. To use the chat facility, the first thing to do is to type your comment or question into the chat box. You can now enter your screen name. Your screen name will show when you type your question or comment. Now you will see the chat facility ask for your email address. As I mentioned before, each of our pages are linked to people from the organisation who can reply to your questions. You can enter your email address, which will not be shared with anyone, to get a direct response from the people behind the broadcast. If you do not want a direct response, then click the button at the bottom. People behind the broadcast can still respond to you if you don't provide your email address. This just means you may have to come back to the page to check the response. To type your question, simply click on the chat box. You will then see two symbols appear. The @ symbol will mean your comment or question will be posted publicly for others to see. The email symbol means your comment or question can be sent directly to the person of your choice from the list that will appear. You can now speak to the people behind the broadcast and ask any questions you may have, or check out our partner pages to see the companies we work with who you can speak to right now about their current vacancies. You can also check out our careers page, which connects you to employers. Our live chat service is linked 24/7 to employers from a wide range of sectors, all waiting to hear from you. You can leave a question about how to produce a professional CV or how to prepare for interviews, anything work related, and one of our businesses will respond to you directly. You can also access a wide variety of live interactive broadcasts and video on demand with the live chat support on all pages. Now this bit is for the parents, guardians and teachers. The best bit about the live chat facility is that it is completely moderated, so you don't need to worry if your young person leaves a silly comment, as it will only show on their screen and no one else's. Another great thing about the chat facility is that it is GDPR protected, so no information is shared with anyone else. We will protect all email addresses and will never share personal information of the young people. If you have any questions about the chat facility or the Learn Live channel, please use the email us icon at the top of the page. Thank you, stay safe and stay tuned.
Hello and welcome to the Learn Live channel and to today's Strategies to Future-Proof Our Students broadcast. In partnership with the University of Northampton's Aspire Hire team and the DFE funded Careers and Enterprise Company, we are pleased to invite you to join us in attending a bespoke online session for senior educational leads to explore the impact of a strategic, embedded and sustainable careers programme in delivering COVID recovery objectives and future-proofing students for their future journey into a post-Brexit labour market. Now within this session, we'll be providing you with the opportunity to hear the national perspective of the CEC framed within the local economic context, supported by head teachers who have already undertaken the journey to transforming attitudes, behaviours and attainment through the creation of a careers programme that champions aspiration and inspiration for all. Now, if you have any questions for any of our speakers today, please place them in the live chat, which you'll find next to the video player, and the person you have directed your question to will get back to you as soon as possible. We have a live chat coming up in about an hour's time as well, where you'll be able to get those questions answered to our panel who are joining us today. The first poll will be made available for the opening assessment surrounding the beginning of this incredible event. This poll will ask yourselves to reflect on your existing career strategy and consider to what extent it is. It's important, embedded, understood and impactful in your school or college. This will hopefully give us a baseline assessment and feel for where you are as head teachers and think where you are based on your knowledge before this broadcast. You can find a link for the poll in the live chat. It should be on there in a few moments for you to fill in. Now, in a short while, we'll be hearing from Mrs. Smith as she gives us a head teacher's perspective surrounding setting a career strategy in a school environment. But first, we'll be hearing from Paul Thompson, the Employment and Skill Manager at SEMLEP, as he introduces today's broadcast, local skills strategy and the context behind it all. Thank you, Paul.
Hi, my name is Paul Thompson. I'm the Employment and Skills Manager for the South East Midlands Local Enterprise Partnership, SEMLEP. I'm just going to give you a short presentation about the area and what's going on, the impact of COVID-19, and actually kind of show you what we've been doing and where we're going and why we need your help and support. South East Midlands comprises Northamptonshire, Bedfordshire, Luton and Milton Keynes. It is one of the most successful areas in the country in terms of business growth, business development, new business startup, innovation. We have a lot going for us as an area. Our role within all of this is actually to help that economic growth, and there are 38 local enterprise partnerships dotted around the country. And certainly our responsibility is development of infrastructure to support that kind of growth. But one of the elements that we look after is skills, and that's my responsibility in the area. Now, we've got about 865,000 people in employment in the area, and currently we are tracking obviously job postings, and last 365 days we had about 160,000 job postings within the area. Employment's been growing very healthily. Obviously the figures you see here are pre-COVID, and our employability rate, so number of people who could work and are working, is that above that of the national average. And I'm pleased to say that's for everything really. So everybody from 19 and older, women and men, and all ethnicity groups. We have a couple of areas where we actually do have more jobs than working age populations in Milton Keynes and Northampton, and that is actually growing. So high levels of employment within the area. We track job postings, so these are job vacancies. Now, obviously you can see from the graph here that it's stalled. It was healthy growth beginning part of the year. It's stalled with COVID-19, as you kind of would understand. But we're pleased to say it's starting to pick back up again now. We actually have at some point got back up to about 89% of the running rates that we were before COVID-19. We're currently at 70%, so it's looking healthy. The Institute of Employment Studies has rated the area as bouncing back the fastest in terms of vacancies. So it's encouraging. There are some healthy signs there. The interesting thing has been the kind of changes in occupational groups and jobs. And when I say changes, there haven't been that many actually. The kind of jobs that we have seen come more to the fore are obviously within the health and the care and the education sector. A few more in digital as well, as you'd probably appreciate. Logistics is growing really fast now, and construction is starting to come back online and is showing healthy growth. Within the top 200 new kind of jobs that have kind of entered, digital, medical occupations. So you can see from the graph here, the green is the last 90 days, and that's vacancies per day, and the teal colour there is up to 1 year, up until April 2020, and again it's obviously per day. You can see there that within these kind of occupational groups and sectors where the changes have been. So healthy growth, as I said before, in logistics, digital health are up there as well. At construction, you can see a slight growth. Obviously, you'll have read the news, you'll have heard the stories. Retail, accommodation, food, they are suffering at the moment in particular. And then if we actually look at in a bit more detail at the different occupations and the smaller occupational groups within those previous groups, you can see the growth that we've had. So this is from April to September. Even hospitality, food and tourism has got a little bit of growth within it. But certainly kind of digital has kind of peaked, just dropped down a wee bit, but it will come back again. The health side has been very kind of buoyant and will continue to be so, and we're expecting that to actually grow quite considerably soon. Business management and operations, certainly a big chunk of that is to do with the logistics sector and manufacturing, and associated with that some of the kind of hidden roles that you'd perhaps traditionally see, so things like procurement, human resources, but obviously warehouse staff, drivers, that kind of thing. Very, very kind of high in demand at the moment. So in terms of SEMLEP, what are our aims? Our main aims, as I said before, are growth within the local economy. But within the skills side, there are two things in particular that relate to the education side, and that's one, to inform and inspire and raise aspirations of our talent pipeline, and to help coordinate and simplify the engagement and provision within that. And the sectors that we are focusing on and where we want to encourage kind of growth are high-tech innovation, advanced logistics, supply chain, construction, digital. These are all sectors that will grow and are growing. We have healthy numbers within health and care and education. And again, there is some growth there, but there's also a big replacement need. We do have an ageing workforce. Hello, I'm one of them. And so, you know, there will be demand there to bring young people through. And we are looking at things slightly differently, in as much as traditionally, you know, organisations like ours have talked about sectors. We're talking about these occupational groups simply because they cut across so many of the sectors. So we've just done some research on the digital sector and looked at the jobs within it. We found only about a third of those jobs labelled as digital went actually into specific digital companies. The other kind of 60–70% were cutting across traditional kind of types of business. And so I think for the young people, we need to kind of talk in these kind of terms in terms of occupational groups. Our kind of strategy on delivery is very much based around alignment of provision to need. We have pools of money which we're responsible for capital investment, and we ensure that that actually goes towards the development of facilities locally to meet these employers' needs. So you can see some pictures there, some of which you may recognise. The majority of the investment that we've made within skills has been with the further education colleges across the area, and that includes Northampton College, Moulton, and at Tresham in Wellingborough in particular. The other thing that we're actually looking at is kind of helping and supporting and informing about pathways for kind of careers, generally kind of at the adult side, but very much heavily involved with the further education side again as well, making sure that we actually have the capacity and the provision in place. A key element, though, is within education, and that's actually helping and making sure that we've got relevant and quality careers provision in place. Now, we do this through an organisation called the Careers and Enterprise Company, and what we do is we work in partnership with a number of organisations, one of which is UniConnect in the university, to kind of help make this activity happen actually on the ground, and make sure that young people are aware of the opportunities within the occupational groups you see there on the right. Employer engagement is key part of the strategy. Lots of evidence to show that the more employer engagement we actually have with young people, the better informed they are to make decisions, obviously, but there's also less likely to become NEET kind of going forwards. So we've been running this Growing Talent campaign for a little while, and that's really about trying to get employers engaged with schools and colleges. We're starting now to move towards geographic hubs, and we've actually had a pilot of one of these down in Luton recently, which has proved to be very, very successful as acting as a focal point. So we look for enterprise advisors to actually help the schools and the careers leaders in particular with employer engagement, maybe a little bit of strategy occasionally, with inspirers to actually get business people in front of young people, facilitating. So this could be work experience as it was in the past, but now virtual, things like virtual work experience, and helping inform, making sure that we're aware of what those needs are. The way it kind of maps out and the way that we actually kind of facilitate that with the employers is through a number of different kind of activities. And there's a strong evidence base of what actually works. So right down into primary school, it's making the young people aware of what we actually have in the area, why we're successful, what we've got in this area, what the opportunities are going to be for the future, you know, what are skills, what are qualifications, that kind of thing. We then look to kind of use business as employers to kind of inspire, raise aspirations, inform young people, make them understand the relevancy of numeracy, literacy, basic digital skills. We're very much about promoting STEAM within the schools through the STEM ambassadors and other activity. And also when we've talked to the businesses and we've talked to them about what do they mean by employability skills, they come back to us with these kind of things. So core competencies, you could call them transferable skills. We don't like to call them soft skills because quite frankly, they're not soft, they're essential. And you know, certainly the core competencies on the left-hand side, they're actually listed in order and the frequency that they come up with job applications. On the right-hand side, you have there the kind of attitudes and behaviours, and then we have the kind of technical and vocational skills, so a bit more job specific here, things that are actually needed for particular kind of areas of work. The interesting thing is on the core competencies, digital literacy. It's moving up the list faster and faster, and it's basically Microsoft Office and the use of. And we are hearing lots of kind of issues with young people not being able to use it appropriately. Everything is employer driven. Everything is built on what works, so best practice. We're not frightened to innovate, though occasionally, and certainly with the COVID-19 we've had to do that. We're very much about inclusivity and diversity, so we want to make sure that we get the right role models in front of the right cohorts. It's very much a message of not why, but why not, opportunity for all. We obviously do adult provision as well, kind of going forwards. It just doesn't stop after education. Well, does it work? Yep, it appears to. We do a survey with about 1,600 businesses every 2 years. And we're pleased to say that one of the issues of why businesses found vacancies hard to fill traditionally has always been that the kind of lack of work-ready school leavers or youngsters coming out of college or further education. Pleased to say that percentage has dropped and it's improving. So that's something that we are keen to maintain and going forwards. It's also interesting, we ask businesses about the perception of schools within the area. That's improving as well, which is good. We're lagging a little bit behind here in Northamptonshire, so we've got some work to do. But the interesting thing there is we also lag behind a little bit with employer engagement in the schools in Northamptonshire. So it would appear as soon as we can get the businesses into the schools, they start to get a better impression of what the schools and what the challenges are within school. So the more that engagement we can drive, the better for everybody, I think. You may have come across the Gadsby benchmarks. I hope you have. They're a measure of careers provision within schools and the quality of careers provision in schools. Your careers leaders will have completed a thing called the Compass tool, and that actually provides a measure of where the school or the college is actually at with regard to kind of careers provision. You can see the progression that's been made. This is within the whole of the SEMLEP area over the last 3 years. Very, very healthy. We're now at an average of about 82% across the board. And those schools with having at least those schools actually having 100% Gadsby benchmarks. The average now is 4 per school. So that's encouraging. I've included the Careers Hub in Luton down there just to show why we're going towards these geographic kind of hubs. Because the average there is 89%, and that's because there is a tremendous amount more of employer engagement within the schools. encouraged by the head teachers. And so, we want to replicate that model further afield, actually throughout the patch. For Northamptonshire, those scores are a little bit less, but it's mainly to do with the work experience and actually employer engagement. The average is 81%, so it's not that far behind. So this is why we're keen to talk to yourselves, because we need to do more. We need to kind of help move this forwards and remove any blockages that we kind of have. We spoke to a number of head teachers during the last summer term, and I spoke to 12. And all of those schools at least had 100% on against 6 of the Gadsby benchmarks. There were some common things that actually came out across each of those. All of them had actually appointed a full-time careers leader, or at least somebody who's working 4 days a week actually in the post. All viewed kind of careers as a tool for inspiration and raising aspirations. So they didn't actually see it as careers per se, they saw it as a wider thing. They had embedded careers across the curriculum, so there was elements of careers within lots of different lessons and activities. All had appointed a link governor for careers as well, which was interesting. But the interesting thing there was that link governor was also bringing businesses towards the school as well. And one had even introduced a new deputy head position, deputy head for employability and skills, which is quite impressive. The interesting conversation that we actually had about digital literacy was the fact that I don't think the head teachers fully appreciated how important it was to actual businesses. I mean, obviously COVID-19 has changed that situation dramatically as well. But it's actually not so much teaching it, because computer science these days has a very small element of that. It's more applying it and using it. And so the encouragement that we'd actually asked those head teachers to do was to actually make a point of using Microsoft Office, again, across the curriculum and within other subjects. COVID-19, I think, has probably forced the hand anyway a little bit now. We would encourage that as much as kind of technically possible. So I hope they found that useful. That's just an overview of what's going on in the area. It's been extremely successful. We appreciate your support and your help with all this. Northamptonshire in particular has made huge advances. We now need to take it onto another level. And the way to do that is to get much more employer engagement within the schools and a lot more activity. And that's what we aim to do to help you. We've got some exciting projects coming up soon with virtual work experience, where we're going to hope to place 6,000 young people within virtual work experience places. We've got some broadcasts coming along as well. There are my contact details. If you'd like to contact me directly about anything I've said today, then please do. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Paul, for that great introduction surrounding the local skills strategy and the context behind what we want to inspiring to do today. Now, if you have any questions for Paul and the team at SEMLEP, please leave them in the live chat next to the video. And thank you for those who already have put their comments on there. It's a great opportunity to ask any questions about the context for today, and we've got people behind the scenes ready to answer your questions. In a short while, we'll be hearing from Nicola Hall at the Careers and Enterprise Company as she talks to us about looking beyond the benchmarks and what the future aims are for the remainder of 2020 and going into 2021. Simon Chapman will then be joining us from Aspire Higher as he goes further into detail about investing in aspiration for all. But first, let's hear from Rachel Smith, who is the head teacher at Beaconfield High School. Rachel will be giving us a head teacher's perspective surrounding the setting of a career strategy. And remember, keep those questions coming in on the live chat.
Well, hello. Thank you so much for inviting me to this wonderful conference. I wish I was in the East Midlands. It'd be lovely to be going around the country. However, I'm sitting in my office. But I am delighted to talk to you briefly about my school's approach to developing an effective career strategy. So my name is Rachel Smith. I'm very proud to be the head teacher of Beaconsfield High School. My school is 11 to 18-year-old school for girls. It's a converter academy. We have an average size in terms of school and sixth form. A lot of our students come from different areas within Buckinghamshire and some nearby towns. Most students are of white British origin, but we do have an increasing number of variety of different cultures. And we are really excited about developing our careers programme. I've been in school now for 7 years as the head teacher, and the school's been part of the Enterprise Advisor Network for 2 years. I've been an active enterprise advisor, and we also have Hugh Chamberlain from Johnson & Johnson, who's volunteered for the school and has done a lot of work with us over the last number of years. We've got an ethos within our school that's very much to do with preparing students for their future, one of independence and resilience and confidence. And the school vision actually is to be remarkable every day. We have something called a Getting Life Ready programme, where we focus on transferable life skills that underpin everything that everyone does every day. And the students are encouraged to reflect and collaborate and take risks and think critically. So what I wanted to share with you today is the way forward for our careers and how we help our students in the future. So following the first Buckinghamshire Head Teachers Conference in 2019, I told Kerry Centauri that firstly the conference had engaged me, but it didn't talk to me particularly. It didn't make me feel as though I was lacking in much in terms of careers, but it was interesting and it was accessible. But then it started to show me much more the global overview of our provision of careers. And I realised I had one of those moments, Kerry's called it my epiphany. It helped me to understand that actually what I was doing was not really fulfilling my moral purpose, the focus that I use for very much everything that I do, and every decision I make. And the thought of letting students down in terms of careers was actually pretty upsetting to me. And I realised that actually we had to make a difference. I had to make a plan. And as with all great head teachers, the same as all of you, the important thing is to not only decide what we want to do, but decide where we're going, and also the impact that it's going to have. I knew that I wouldn't be able to do this alone, and that actually careers wasn't really an add-on anymore. And that was really the moment that I realised I had to put some money where my mouth was. That's not always easy, as you'll know, in schools. And to do that, I had to be really, really sure we could do a great job. I knew I needed extra staff. What you've got in front of you here is one of our careers plans that we do. Again, the aim is to be accessible, to be really clear about the wide variety of things that we do, but also the spread of what we do with careers. And I think that's very important too. It isn't an add-on. It's something that you have to do throughout the school from the very beginning. I think that the currency of children's futures is less and less based on their examination results, as we've seen this year with the centre assessed grades, but much more on their ability to transfer knowledge into the real world, the types of skills that businesses need. And I had an aspiration for our careers programme, which was to prepare students for the breadth of skills that they needed in life and to open up doors that they don't even know are there yet. So, first of all, what did we do? Like anybody, we created an audit. And we started to put down all the things that we actually did. And this is a bit of an example of one that we began with. Again, it's not a very exciting, innovative slide, but it gives you an idea of more of the detail that we were starting to look at. This was very useful because it helped create a baseline to improve and identify how we could increase opportunity with careers. But that's just a piece of paper. And actually what was also important is thinking about, well, what was our vehicle with which to actually put this information forward? Students in year 7 or year 10 or year 12 really are not thinking about their careers. They're thinking about their next steps, what they're going to study next when they leave in year 13, or they're thinking about their friendship issues. So we had to think about how are we going to get our message to the right people in the right way. So, first of all, we thought about a regular drip. I have the joy, as no doubt many of you do, of writing a weekly update. And so we have a curriculum, a careers corner. I also thought about how else do we do it? What do we do within our day-to-day world that starts to put careers into the real DNA of all of our students? And one of that was actually to review the curriculum and to just see what was actually being developed within the classroom every day. Not all key days of curriculum days, but just general drip. We looked at our communications and our fun activities. What do we do that actually makes careers seem fun and not that thing that you do when you leave home? We looked at a sixth form bulletin and how we share all the information and the work experience opportunities that are available for students. And we make sure that they get that weekly too, so that they can work towards their UCAS applications or their applications for higher level apprenticeships. We also did something in the curriculum which was pretty big for us, and that was that we took an hour out of the curriculum each week and we created a lecture series. And that lecture series for year 12s and year 13s, when they had an option to come and visit and listen, was that we brought in many people from a variety of different careers spaces to talk about not just their careers, but how the knowledge and information helped take them forward in their lives. And that's had huge impact on people's opening their eyes up to what could happen when looking at a different career they hadn't thought of. But this is all very well, but you have to also want to motivate your staff into doing this. How do you get staff to want to, on top of everything else, be involved with their careers? So we used performance management to help them do that, and we also gave them time. And I'll tell you a little bit about that in a minute. We then used the local community. We told them about what we're doing and we asked them to get involved. And I regularly, in my updates and in emails and talks with local community, try and get anybody I can who will come and spend 10 minutes in a lesson, virtually of course, or make a short video about something that they're doing so that all of this can be shared. And I think that that was what's important, is that we have to have, it's a whole circle. You don't just start with careers and think, let's give them to the children. It's how do we help everybody else to get involved? So, for example, when we were looking at our curriculum, we looked at looking at how we could link the curriculum to careers. So we looked at, for example, science, technology, engineering, maths, and we looked at how every student had that opportunity to learn about careers within those different subjects. And we also tried to link careers with the subjects that they were teaching. So they didn't just say about maths careers in maths or English careers within English, but actually try and connect them across. And that mapping, which is mentioned on this slide here, was really quite important to help different teachers of different subjects realise how they could link with others. And that made it easier for them because they didn't feel alone when they were talking about careers. So what we did is we also gave teachers some time within the directed time to sit and talk with their departments about how they could put careers into different lessons. And to help increase their motivation, one of their 3 performance management objectives, they could choose to actually focus on careers within their area. That gave managers an opportunity to spread the load of the work that was involved, but also it gave someone who was interested an opportunity to focus on that, and everybody else had then their resources. That made a huge difference because it felt as though the whole school moved forward as a result of that. So there were other things that we did. Obviously, as I've said, we tried an audit, but that's just a piece of paper. We then gave those departments their time to identify their careers. And then we began with a slightly smaller core number of departments, as you can see there at number 3. And we also ensured that we were able to increase the opportunities to link into the curriculum with numeracy ambassadors as part of that performance management. If teachers believe that they are going to have impact, then it feels also that we should have impact on them and their work-life balance, their ability to input to careers by having the benefit at the end when we assess their performance management. We also then had a look at our quality assurance, and we decided that we needed to increase literacy and numeracy as part of our quality assurance to also raise the need for an understanding of how literacy and numeracy was important in careers. And all of our enrichment activities also feed into this. So our reality was that we got everybody thinking about how English and maths impacted on future careers. Your reality may be different, but I'm giving you my opportunities to see things slightly differently. So we spread that load. I showed you earlier on a part of the audit that we did, and we decided that actually we didn't just want to do this in 10, 11, 12 and 13, but actually we wanted to get careers in early. So we decided of all of the things that we needed to do, and we logged them in year groups. So for example, on this slide here, you see how the PSHE started off. We looked at how do we challenge stereotypes, moving through to how we budgeted at university, and we identified which parts were most useful in different year groups. I think this is vital again, because the relevance of the information that you're sharing with the students is what's important for them actually listening and hearing what you've got to say. We also then make a lot of use of tutor time sessions. And we decided that we would get students to buy into some of the information by talking about things that was important. You can see on the bottom squares there that salaries and jobs are quite important, as they are for most young people, to be honest. So we tried to link into how different careers would help them moving forward. And I think by sharing this load, it suddenly didn't feel quite so huge, because we knew that in year 7 we might do something different to what we were doing in year 11, but that it built rather than repeated. And we all know that danger of PSHE about relationships. You keep saying the same old thing year after year and people stop listening. This was the same thing we tried to avoid by sharing the load and spreading it out. We then went and had a look more closely and more deeply at the information that we did within different curriculums. So an example is here, about careers in the English curriculum in year 7. So we start them young, get them thinking about it. They might discuss and think about the different success criteria for what good communication would look like. Why would that be important? Well, that goes back to the idea that careers and the assessment of yourself in a good career path will always be your ability to communicate well, your ability to show resilience, to work in groups and those types of things. So we have what's called GLR, which is getting life ready. And all of those different skills are the things which are important in careers. So we take people back to, for example, as it says in bullet point 2, the idea of looking at a person's spec for a job that's been advertised, and how the GLR skills that we teach would help those students going forward. We also help them to look at different jobs and look at how the National Careers Service website helps to support all the information we talked about. Again, the idea of creating that circle of knowledge from the reason why we do things, looking at interesting examples, and then taking the students into real world examples so that they can see why it's worthwhile. We also then, within English, for example, directly linked it to a presentation of something which they were doing within English. Again, useful because we were still following the English curriculum, but also because it linked back to that idea of careers. Taking a little bit further to show a little bit more depth, our Getting Life Ready curriculum in year 7, we decided that we needed to not only just, let's say, research something, because again, that's not so difficult. That can be done at lots of different levels. And we wanted to make sure that there was challenge within our work on careers. So as you can see here, we set the students a collaborative task of researching and planning a presentation on the Gulf War. That takes in lots of other links within the curriculum, as you can see. But also it talked about and taught the students more about collaborative working. So they weren't just learning it by pure chance, by osmosis, but we actually talked about, excuse me, good collaborative working so that they understood. We taught them about that first, so then they recognised the skills that they were learning. Much the same as anything we do, we believe if you're going to teach people skills, you must understand what those skills mean and recognise them so that you can use them later. We also looked at TED Talks and other presentations so that they were able to do something really, really worthwhile. So it became important for them to understand how those skills could then translate into the job descriptions that we looked at and the person specifications, and how they in a career interview would be able to actually showcase the skills that they'd learnt and have more chance of getting the jobs. Another example that might be useful for you is looking at a science curriculum and how we brought that in year 8. We looked in a year 8 lesson on a topic of inheritance and DNA. And you can see, if you have a look through, you're all very grown up, I don't need to read you the slide, but you can see how we started to link into forensic scientists and forensic science, and the forensic scientists and criminologists, something that's big with young people these days. So again, increasing that interest and bringing the information into the reality for them, I think has made a huge, huge difference. But also helping to do things like challenging stereotypes and all the other things which you would expect within the workplace and be able to learn a little bit more about. So we then gave more time to different departments to ensure that they were able to produce schemes of work that actually identified where they were going to talk about career-related learning. And I think this was important because by doing this, they bought into it and actually planned towards it. We also gave them an opportunity to have a number of career-related learning activities, etc. And some of the links on this slide here would also help you. I think that life for a teacher, as we all know, is very, very hard, and the information that we can provide for staff to help them make life a little easier so that they spend their time actually achieving the task rather than researching the task, I think has been part of what has helped us to be even more successful in taking careers forward. But of course, there are other things that needed to be done, and we had to take extra people on. I was very lucky. Governors gave me some additional money to take on a 3-day-a-week full person who turned out to be magnificent. We did begin by taking someone on who we thought was going to be great, but it really wasn't for her. So rather than keep trying to work with the same person, we accepted that. She accepted that, and we advertised and found the right person. And I think that, again, has got to be about believing that if you have the right person in place, then it will work. So what other things did we do? Well, again, a long list of things here, which you can have a look at. I think it was about really trying to consider all of the audiences and the different messages that we wanted to put forward. I think by having our careers coordinator, increasing money, which would increase the number of advisor appointments, and having enterprise advisors to liaise with, has been enormously powerful in managing to take careers forward and making it real within our school. I think that it is a dangerous thing to believe that if someone says they can do this in 3 days, they can. I've recently increased Our Lady to 4 days as she moves towards our virtual career speed dating events and our and other things that we offer. The reason being is if you want it done right, you have to give the time, and sometimes it's worth putting money into useful things that will take our children forward, and I genuinely believe that careers is something like that. We've got workplace experiences that obviously we can't go out to work now, so we are trying to do virtual workplace experiences, which I think will be great. And our virtual, what I call speed dating event, is where we have a lot of people who come from different varieties, different spaces that our students wouldn't necessarily look at. They've done some pre-recorded videos on what their career is like and how it's taken them further forward in life. And we're also doing a number of live Teams talks where students can sort of interrogate, hopefully just question, but maybe interrogate people who are doing careers, again, as I said, that they would not necessarily have thought about. And I think this is really important because careers are often dictated to, certainly career paths are often dictated to by parents and what their assumptions are of the future. But the life has changed, and I think things like high level apprenticeships are really, really powerful examples of how someone can actually take their knowledge into the real world now, rather than just go to university and have a degree, which is absolutely perfect for the students that it suits, and come out with that large amount of debt. I have 5 children, and one of my daughters did a high level apprenticeship. In fact, she didn't even do A level. She skipped that and went straight into the degree level apprenticeship, and she's now at 20, just come out with a BSc. And a salary of 33 grand, which I don't think is too bad considering she's only 20. But what it does is it sends the message to our parents that if the head teacher believes this is something that works right, then it's something that's worth looking at. And the apprenticeships are now not only just about vocational subjects, but they're also about taking high academic performance further forward as well. So I think that it's really important for our careers people to link up, to share ideas. I don't think anyone should be doing this on their own. I think we get a great deal of superb research and information through from a variety of different places. But if the people on the ground don't have an opportunity to bounce ideas off of other people, ideas and also worries and concerns and how to overcome concerns, then I don't think it will work as well. So Beaconsfield High School has come a long way in 2 years with careers. I do believe that we are genuinely working with careers with our young people, but also genuinely involving our staff in this too. So I hope that the rest of this conference will be really, really useful for you. And I can only say that having started off not really believing it was my job, it was someone else's, I now genuinely believe it is. And I think the world as it stands now and in the future is changing to such a point that if we can stress to our students that the anxiety for their futures is part of our worry too, and show them how what we're doing is relevant for the future, I think there will be a great deal more success within all that we do. Do contact me if you like. I'm sure that my contact details will be available after the conference. And I'm very interested, if you'd like, in connecting my careers coordinator with many of yours. We may all work in different contexts, but we still all work with young people who are all still worried about their future. And it is our job to help them see how we can help them manage those pathways and take them forward. Thank you very much for listening, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your conference. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Rachel, for going through setting a career strategy from a head teacher's perspective. Really helpful, really useful. And if you've got any questions about that, please leave them now on the live chat. Having heard how Rachel used careers as a strategy to implement and achieve wider school objectives, we ask you fellow head teachers to reflect on and rate the extent to which you believe practical elements of a best practice strategy and plan might help them to achieve a similar impact in your school. And you can find a link to the poll on this in the live chat right now. In a short while, we'll be hearing from Simon Chapman, who will be joining us from Aspire Higher as he goes further into detail about investing in aspiration for all. But first, let's hear from Nicola Hall, the Director of Education at the Careers and Enterprise Company. Nicola will be talking us through what looking beyond the benchmarks and what the aims are for 21 and 2020. Thank you, Nicola.
Hello everyone, it's great to be here with you all today to take part in this important event discussing how we continue to develop careers education for young people into 2020-2021. I'm actually going to develop on the title, which was given to me for this session today, and reframe that title as Embedding the Benchmarks, and I'll explain why shortly. But first of all, a short introduction from me. I joined the Careers and Enterprise Company exactly a year ago from my previous position as a head teacher. I was the head teacher of 2 secondary schools, the first being a 14 to 19 studio school, where our curriculum was co-constructed with employers in our community, and we worked with around 200 employers at any given time. And then my second headship was at a community secondary school in Lancashire. Careers and/or enterprise have been at the forefront of my personal career for many years, and I saw an opportunity when I joined CEC to be able to influence this agenda on a wider scale. Ultimately, when I speak about careers, I do so with futures in mind. And when I say futures, I mean preparing young people, all young people, for their futures beyond their individual school or college. So this, as you are all acutely aware, is a greater challenge than any of us have ever faced before. And this is why we need to continue to build on those benchmarks and absolutely embed them into our schools and colleges across the country. This slide gives a picture of what we know at the moment about the impact of the pandemic in the UK on education. It really details the whys of the Gatsby Good Careers Guidance Framework, and this picture demonstrates why now more than ever before, we need to embed the Gatsby benchmarks and have a keen eye on quality of provision, make time in our school and college provision for careers, and give all young people of all of our cohorts, in fact, more than our cohorts, each and every young person, their game plan for their future beyond their immediate education. Most significantly, having a strategic careers plan in place to respond to benchmark 1, which is aligned to both school improvement and development plans, and recovery and revive plans, can start to frame how you can address these challenges overall. And if you take a look at the short, the medium and long-term sections of this slide, you can see that the Gatsby benchmarks and the framework are absolutely reflected through each of the different periods of time that I'm talking about. So some of the aspects of this slide are very close to your hearts in your schools and colleges. For instance, the impact of Results Day and the ongoing assessment challenges for 2020-2021. We know the impact that will have on every single young person in the country. We know already that gaps in provision and school learning and attendance at school are starting to affect the engagement of young people, particularly at Key Stage 4. This picture has been drawn together from colleagues across the country, given to us from intelligence from within schools and colleges, but also from working closely with our industry partners and the education sector overall. Great progress has been made towards the Gatsby benchmarks to date, and since the introduction of the government career strategy in 2017, now more than 4,200 colleges and schools are showing through their compass returns that they're making progress towards achieving the benchmarks overall. And the left-hand side of this slide just gives a reminder of the 8 benchmarks as we're talking about them today. The strongest progress across the country is being made in careers hubs, supported by networks of employers, local enterprise partnerships, and dedicated hub leads who are driving quality and practice across those networks in the country. To date, from September 2020, 2,266 schools and colleges will be in a careers hub, and our ambition is to roll this programme out at scale. So when we consider how we embed the Gatsby benchmarks moving forward, and we think about the introduction of those benchmarks from 2017, the government had an expectation that schools and colleges were achieving their benchmarks, all 8 benchmarks, by 2020. We know that this is a huge ask. We also know that this ask has been significantly compromised this year by the pandemic and the situations that you've all been faced in your schools and colleges. But when we think about the Gatsby benchmarks and we think about embedding them for the future and really using them as a framework to drive young people's excellent careers guidance for the future, what does this really mean? We know that school and college leaders are saying to us that the benchmarks represent a standardised framework, that's understood by all stakeholders. So we know that it's understood by school leaders, by governors in schools and colleges, by industry partners that we work with, and of course by our enterprise advisor network. We also know that in due course, this framework could be well understood by parents if we chose to develop in that particular way. We know that the Gatsby benchmarks represents a really high quality, world-class standard of set of standards for schools, special schools and colleges. And we know that they are challenging to deliver to. But frankly, what would be the point if they weren't challenging? We know that they're world class. We know that the standards are being adopted by other countries across the world. And for instance, Sir John Holman, who wrote the Gatsby benchmarks, is presenting over the next couple of weeks to Hong Kong, and they are adopting the benchmarks themselves. The Gatsby benchmarks gives us an outward-facing perspective on careers guidance. It's not just about what's happening in our schools in terms of qualifications and development of young people. The Gatsby benchmarks enable us to link young people and their careers guidance to the outside world, to link them directly to industry and encounters that give them the perspective they need to make really strong, informed choices. Over the course of the pandemic, during the summer, Gatsby undertook a survey with a company called Tate, and they surveyed school and college careers leaders across the country in respect of their thoughts around careers guidance at this particular moment in time. 99% of school and college leaders surveyed recognised that the Gatsby benchmarks provided a useful framework for careers guidance for all that use it. 72% of those educational leaders indicated that careers guidance was more important to them and their schools and colleges than ever before. So this is the picture where things currently stand. These are the headlines, basically. However, the career strategy version 1, which detailed that by 2020, all schools and colleges should be achieving the Gatsby benchmarks. We know this is a difficult task, but one that we absolutely must continue to pursue. So in terms of headlines, careers education is improving everywhere. We know that when we think back to 10, 15 years ago, there's been an absolutely seismic change in the careers education infrastructure across the country. Disadvantaged areas had the most focused support, from the start of the development of our Enterprise Advisor Network, and they're now showing to be the highest performing areas of the country in terms of achievement of the Gatsby benchmarks. The Careers Hub and the Enterprise Advisor Network deliver accelerated progress to schools and colleges, and in partnership with schools and colleges across the country. Young people's skills and work readiness are improving. We know this through the results of our Future Skills Questionnaire and also through surveying careers leaders consistently across the country. We know that as young people's skills and work readiness improve, then so does their attainment and their opportunities for long-term earnings and longitudinally employment. So schools, colleges and businesses are now working together on a national scale. They're enabled by a new workforce of careers leaders, and those careers leaders are becoming increasingly professionalised across our education system. Twice every half term and weekly during lockdown, at the Careers and Enterprise Company nationally, we've been speaking to over 5,500 careers leaders per week through our digital communications, where we share resources, tips, training, tools and ideas for careers leaders to help them improve their practice for young people within each and every one of your schools and colleges. So, what are CEC's priorities over 2020-21? These link directly to the theory of embedding the benchmarks overall. Our absolute top priority is that careers leaders are our primary customer. We can summarise our priorities for the following year into 5 succinct areas. And these areas start from the support of school and college careers leaders right here, right in the now. And the priorities drive through a range of longer term outcomes, which are linked to our strategic work around destinations and measuring career outcomes for young people. In the past, Careers and Enterprise Company have focused very much through our Enterprise Advisor Network on benchmarks 5 and 6, and that's because the original remit of our company was driving the network of education and employers. Now we have widened our remit, and we know and are focusing on the fact that all benchmarks are equal. We know that as careers leaders in schools and colleges need support for all 8 of the benchmarks, and that is what our network and our careers hubs are here to do. Our clear ambition is that we roll out careers hubs everywhere across the country so that all young people in all educational institutions can benefit from those intensive support networks. And we will continue over the course of 2021 to influence policy, to support the DFE in terms of developing a career strategy that's fit for purpose within our schools and colleges, and ultimately continue to drive towards social transformation through high quality and expert careers guidance in schools and colleges. So beyond 2021, our mission remains the same. Our mission is to prepare young people for the fast changing world of work. We have 3 key objectives which will remain in place for 2020-2021. The first objective is growing our network, making sure that as many schools and colleges as possible are in careers hubs and are matched to high quality enterprise advisors from your business communities. Our second objective is supporting careers leaders with their professional development and tools and resources to carry out their roles effectively. And our third company objective is backing the Gatsby benchmarks and enabling schools and colleges to really deliver against that framework of 8 benchmarks. So in order to do this, we will continue to support careers leaders through a number of measures. We continue to fund and roll out careers leader training, and that funded training also comes with flexible bursaries for you to use in your schools and colleges as you see fit beyond the training. To date, 1,300 careers leaders have taken part in funded careers leader training, and another 650 places are available this year. Please do contact your enterprise coordinator to find out more information about careers leader training for your own schools and colleges. Alongside this, we will continue to support careers leaders with ready-made resources and support from our Enterprise Advisor Network, which is localised. We have an education team who are specialists, who are able to support you and to support the network in developing high quality resources and activities which are fit for purpose for delivery within your schools in any set of circumstances. Throughout this work and across our network, we're delivering high quality communities of practice. We now have local communities of practice developed across the network, with careers leaders working with each other to support each other. We have a special educational needs community of practice, and last week during Colleges Week we launched a further education and skills community of practice to ensure that careers leaders have opportunities to share the best practice with each other across the whole of England. We also want to make sure and help you to ensure that careers guidance can be delivered whatever the circumstances. We know that right now you have a legal responsibility to offer your education through remote mechanisms as well as in school. All of the resources that we've been developing this year are designed to be delivered flexibly, in school, out of school, independently as homework, or through a blended learning method. And all of our resources can be accessed remotely and set remotely by careers leaders and teachers to support young people to continue to access careers guidance, no matter what their educational circumstances are. Our role also takes the shape of supporting education leaders. And this year in particular, we're developing a new communications and engagement strategy to make sure that guidance and distillation of policy is as efficient as possible. We can cut through the narrative for you and make sure that the very key information is brought straight to you through an effective communication strategy. Throughout the course of this year, we are launching a youth voice strategy to enable us to really harness the voice of young people in terms of careers education narrative for England. We're developing a careers hub education model, which is absolutely rooted in school improvement and will be delivered to help support quality assurance of the Gatsby benchmarks across the piece. We have training and development resources available for careers linked governors, and our enterprise advisor network is absolutely available to support all of you in linking education and industry and helping to achieve the benchmarks. And finally, beyond our immediate support for education, we take a great role in influencing policy. We're currently awaiting the publication of the new FE white paper, which will set out the strategic direction for colleges and the further education sector across the country. Embedded in this white paper, we're expecting to see version 2 of the National Careers Strategy, and we know that statutory guidance will follow that in respect of careers. We're also undertaking an independent training provider pilot to make sure that the work of the Careers and Enterprise Company and the development of the Gatsby benchmarks extends beyond school and colleges into apprenticeships for young people, so that they continue to access good quality careers guidance beyond their immediate educational institutions. So what does all this mean for you as a leader or a school or a college? We know that from our research and from working with careers leaders for the last few years, that there are 5 key success factors in delivering and embedding high quality whole school career guidance. These 5 factors are integrating it into your whole school strategy, backing your careers leader and ensuring they have leadership influence in terms of delivering their plans, ensuring your governors are engaged with the school and college careers plan and are challenging it every step of the way, allocating time and resource to careers leaders and to young people in terms of their curriculum or their learning plans, and encouraging and enabling training to make sure that your careers leaders are fully equipped to support young people in the development of the highest levels of careers guidance overall. It's absolutely essential that you know your enterprise coordinator and your enterprise advisor. If your school or college isn't matched to an enterprise advisor, then do make sure that you get in touch with your local careers and enterprise coordinator, and they will enable further support for you. Your enterprise advisor is a senior business volunteer. They are there to act as your critical friend, and they're able to support your career strategic planning for your whole school and college. So finally, I'm going to finish this morning by posing one question to you all. And that question is, how are you embedding the Gatsby benchmarks to give every young person in your school or your college their game plan for the future? Thanks very much.
Thank you, Nicola, for going through the aims for 2020 and 2021 within the benchmark system. And if you have any questions about that, please feel free to use the live chat and the team will get back to you shortly. Coming up, we've got a live Q&A session with the people you've met so far in today's presentation. But before that, we're going to hear from Simon Chapman. Before I go on to Simon, though, I just want to check that you'll see both poll 3 and 4 are now available for you. Poll 3 will be asking yourselves to rate how important you consider those attributes outlined in the first poll to be. And the fourth poll will link fully to Nicola's presentation where she discussed the 5 key factors mentioned. And this poll will be asking you to identify which you will make to commit to adopting or further developing within your school during the next academic year. You can find both of the links to the poll in the chat. In a short while, we'll be hearing from all 3 of our speakers during our live Q&A session, as I mentioned. But first, let's hear from Simon Chapman, the project manager for the UniConnect programme. Simon will be discussing how you can invest in aspiration for all. Thank you, Simon.
Hello, my name is Simon Chapman and I am a project manager for Aspire Higher, and I'm going to be speaking to you today about investing in aspiration for all. So, content of the session, first of all, I'm going to give you an overview of who Aspire Higher are and our aims and objectives. Then we'll take a look at COVID-19 and our recovery plan and what we sought to do throughout the challenging time. And finally, we'll look at how we can develop a sustainable approach for the target students that we work with. So first of all, who are Aspire Higher? Well, we are part of the UniConnect programme. As I said, my name is Simon Chapman and I am an Aspire Higher project manager at the University of Northampton. And we are part of the Office of Students UniConnect programme. However, I also have experience of working in senior leadership teams at schools, as I've worked as an assistant head, and therefore I've been responsible for writing, contributing and embedding the successful implementation of school improvement plans.
Okay, just a slight bit of
Many of you attending today will have heard of the UniConnect programme and its aims and objectives, but some of you may have not. So I thought it'd be important to go through those now. So our key objectives are to reduce the gap in higher education participation between the most and least represented groups. We also aim to support young people in making well-informed decisions about their future education and the routes they take.
Great. Okay,
We also support effective and impactful local collaboration by higher education providers working together with schools and colleges, employers and other partners. And we also seek to contribute to a stronger evidence base around what works in higher education outreach and strengthen evaluation practice in the sector. To achieve our aims, we must consider aspects such as embedding meaningful practice around higher education, thinking about how to future-proof our students, and developing an understanding of sustainability. These are important facets of the UniConnect programme. Working within secondary education, further education and higher education, we can work together to invest in this aspiration and inspire the young people we work with to make these well-informed decisions about their next steps into higher education, whatever they may be, whether that's college, apprenticeships or university. However, how do we achieve this? How can we do this when the current climate is making it very challenging? How can we do this when pockets of funding potentially no longer exist? We need to ensure that our work is robust, sustainable and embedded. The Office for Students UniConnect programme brings together 29 partnerships of universities, colleges and other local partners to deliver outreach programmes to young people in years 9 to 13. our work focuses on local areas where higher education participation is lower than might be expected, given the GCSE results of the young people who live there. Aspire Higher is one of these 29 consortia. University of Northampton work in partnership with the University of Bedfordshire and the University of Hertfordshire to connect local schools and colleges with universities and employers, helping learners to access a variety of opportunities. So what we do is we run targeted outreach activity with local schools to expose these learners to higher education experience and support you in achieving your Gatsby benchmarks. So put simply, our aims are to inspire students from year 9 to year 13 from postcode defined areas in making well-informed decisions about their next steps into higher education. Since 2017, the beginning of the project, Aspire Higher have engaged with over 28,000 young people. And last year, despite school closures due to the coronavirus pandemic, the programme still engaged with 122 schools and colleges and over 5,000 learners. Despite difficulties again this year, schools are still engaging with the programme. So we had 160 students taking part in our live Year 13 Transition to University event. And we also have over 600 students already signed up to our Women into STEAM live virtual event. So where are we now? Phase 1 of the UniConnect project started in January 2017 and ran until 2019, with the aims to support the government's social mobility goals to increase the number of underrepresented groups attending higher education. We're now currently in phase 2 of the programme, with the aim to build on the work completed through phase 1, but to aim for wider collaboration as well. So as you can see, we are in the final year of our project. In the last 2 years alone in phase 2, the Aspire Higher programme has been funded nearly £2.5 million for outreach across the 3 counties. So with that in mind, we are now 3 years into the UniConnect programme with potentially less than 1 year left. And there's still lots of work that can be done, even more so with coronavirus arguably affecting our target students the most. So a global pandemic has been thrown in for good measure, and it's heavily disrupted the learning and opportunities for our students. That means we are faced with the challenge of how we can inspire and inform students whilst tackling remote learning and ensuring sustainability of our work. So what happens following July 2021? Well, we're still a bit unsure. Tentative discussions have started about a phase 3 of the UniConnect project, but what that might look like is very difficult to say at this moment in time. So with coronavirus reaching us in March and lockdown, we had to think about how we could continue our project effectively to continue this targeted outreach. And I felt this was an exciting opportunity. So as I said, we've got less than 1 year left of our programme, plus coronavirus. That equals a real need for innovative and sustainable resources. So traditionally, our historical approach was obviously that face-to-face delivery, where we went out into schools to deliver presentations and workshops on a range of topics such as student finance, apprenticeships, CV advice and mock interviews. We also had lots of in-school experiences where we funded third-party suppliers such as Medical Mavericks, Mad for Life, independent careers advice, lots of other things as well. We've also had that face-to-face experience on campus at Waterside, where we've had campus visits or even large-scale day events, such as the Big Bang, Women into STEAM, and Car Crash Careers Day. However, although we would hope to return to this physical face-to-face world, it isn't the world we're living in today. Working from home during lockdown has initiated a period of remote learning, and we've needed a digital platform of learning where face-to-face in the actual sense has been made temporarily redundant. And this has affected our work in several ways. But as I said, it's also presented us with a really exciting opportunity. So we've moved into that virtual delivery. We've got all those same experiences, but they've been moved online. We've also massively developed our Aspire Higher website as a hub of resources. But as well as that, we're creating innovative resources that can be utilised at just the click of a button. At Aspire Higher, we're developing e-learning modules on a range of topics, including well-being, competitive applications and apprenticeships. Those face-to-face large-scale events are now being held virtually. It also means that these resources, instead of being one-offs, are now permanent, that can be accessed again and again and again, which means the intended impact of those resources is that they've got that sustainable approach, that longevity. They're not just one-offs. So how can we develop a sustainable approach? Well, this needs to be well planned, well thought out, and well considered, and sit firmly within individual school improvement plans. A planned and considered approach. So the funding that Aspire Higher and other UniConnect consortia receive will not continue forever. As I mentioned, there are early discussions around extending the programme, but what it might look like at this point is very difficult to say. The days of funding third-party suppliers to come into a school and deliver a session in isolation without any long-term impact, they can't continue. The approach needs to be more planned out and considered, with repeated opportunities for students for long-term, which will therefore create the sustainability that we're talking about. Aspire High's role in this is to continue to develop high-quality resources, continue to develop our website, to be able to signpost you to other organisations that can support these students with making these well-informed decisions, to have broader collaboration, not just across Northamptonshire, Hertfordshire and Bedfordshire, but with other UniConnect consortia. And as I've mentioned, the use of third-party suppliers is very different. When we use them now, we're making sure that they can help support us in creating other content that, as I say, can be used over and over again. And we can work in partnership to do this. Your schools have their own role to play as well. It's about embedding that practice into your school improvement plans to make sure that there is sustained and there is sustainment and there is progression in what you have planned out. Where can we work together? You can embed these opportunities and embed these resources into your programs. Earlier, Paul Thompson from SEMLEP discussed good practice for schools to achieve their Gatsby benchmarks and inspire students along the way, and certainly offered some food for thought around having roles such as a full-time careers leader and embedding transferable skills and careers and higher education throughout the wider curriculum. He also mentioned about the possibility of giving careers its own place on the school's governing body. We also heard a fantastic case study by Rachel Smith from Beaconsfield High School, highlighting just how the ideas we are speaking about today can be successfully implemented. As I said earlier, Aspire Higher and the UniConnect programme is one small piece in this puzzle, but putting these ideas together can embed fantastic practice in schools. The ideas need to sit with the people who I'm speaking with today, head teachers, senior leaders within schools. Providing our students with opportunities to learn and inspire them to choose higher education, whichever route they choose, must be well considered within a school improvement plan. What is the programme year on year? How does it show progression? And what opportunities and resources are used to support this? What comes next? From our part, we will continue to develop high quality resources to support students making these well-informed decisions. The possibility of a phase 3 of the UniConnect programme might happen, but we won't know that until later on this academic year. And I feel that head teachers, senior leaders need to go away and think about how they could embed resources into their school improvement plans. As I said, my name is Simon Chapman, and there's my email address if you wanted to speak to me about anything within my presentation today. But also, if you wanted any more information, you can check out the UniConnect programme at the officeforstudents.org.uk. And also, please do go and visit our Aspire Hire platform, aspire-hire.co.uk, and check out the useful links and wide variety of resources that we have available to you. So thank you very much for listening to Investing in Aspiration for All.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, you put your hands up and check me you can hear me okay. Perfect. Okay, thank you. We've got a full house then, and thank you very much for your presentations. We've heard obviously from most of the people on this call, I think, today. Thank you, Nicola, Simon and Rachel as well for those excellent presentations. Hopefully that's given you a sense of what we're trying to achieve through this broadcast. And also thank you for the questions that you've sent through, which we're going to talk about in a moment. But I was going to get starting with Alexis. We're going to work our way around the room, the Zoom room. So Alexis, could you just introduce yourself and then we'll work around the rest of the panel.
Hi, I'm Alexis McLeod. I am substituting for Paul Thompson, who wasn't able to join us for the whole session today. I'm a member of the SEMLEP skills team. I work with schools in North Northamptonshire. Thank you, Alexis. And then Rachel?
Yeah, hello, I'm Rachel Smith. I'm head teacher of Beaconsfield High School in Buckinghamshire, and that's my day job. I think my night job is about careers, so I'm very happy to be here.
Thank you. Nicola?
Hey everybody, I'm Nicola Hall. I'm the Director of Education at the Careers and Enterprise Company and formerly a head teacher in Lancashire.
Hello, Nicola. And last but not least, Simon.
Evening, everyone. Yep, so I'm Simon Chapman and I am the project manager for Aspire Hire, part of the UniConnect project at the University of Northampton.
Well, welcome all, and thank you for taking up some of your time to do this. And as I said, thank you for the excellent presentations. And whilst that was going on, we had some polling going on, which I know, Alexis, we've had some interesting feedback from that. So would you like to share what the poll tells us so far?
Yeah, okay, so there were a couple of points that were particularly interesting that came out of the polls, and thank you for everybody that participated. So right at the start of the session, we asked you to give us some feedback about your existing careers programme. And then during the session, we asked you to tell us the elements of those programmes that you felt would have the greatest impact on your future. So we were kind of trying to understand perhaps whether some of the information you'd heard today had changed some of your views. And actually it had. So in comparison to the start of the session, in terms of the moving forwards and where you felt that careers themes might be most impactful, there were quite significant increases in careers plan visibility and understanding to wider stakeholders, to careers being embedded across the whole school curriculum, and to ensuring that your plan and delivery had impact on your students' aspiration and inspiration. So I was chatting with Rachel, our head teacher, during the session, and actually that was quite relevant to what happened in your school, I think, Rachel.
Yes, in terms of taking things forward, I think it's really hard for teachers to be able to make careers part of their life when they're so busy doing their teaching. So what I did is was very clear. We used performance management one year so that everybody had the opportunity to buy into careers and it benefit themselves. But I was also very clear that you didn't just leave them to it. So the idea of using directed time, we plan our directed time quite carefully over the year. And we made sure that we set certain very clear things, like, for example, do an audit or work out how you're going to bring careers into your year 7 curriculum. And then we sent them away for half an hour, 45 minutes to actually achieve that. So instead of just coming up with lots of lovely ideas, we actually gave them the time to take it forward. And I think that one key tip I would give as a head teacher is be really clear and keep it simple. The smallest thing that you want done first, do that. And then everybody says, oh, it's not that hard. And it's not that large. I can do that. And that builds confidence. And then this year, now I've given people opportunities in other departments for one person to be in charge of careers so that they can then take it further. And I think you can't do it all at once. I thought I could, you can't. And so small baby steps, but if you plan them out, then you know that eventually you get to the end of the path and you've achieved all that you want.
Thanks. And then the other interesting observation, actually, and I can see the numbers are still changing, so some of you are still voting. After Nicola presented to us, I asked you all whether any of the 5 key success factors that Nicola outlined would be things that you would commit to adopting or furthering in your own schools this academic year. And in general, there was a consensus that careers plans being better integrated into whole school strategy and ensuring that careers leaders have a greater leadership influence were the things that seemed to come out really, really strongly as the takeaways from that session in terms of what would have the greatest impact. So I don't know if there's anything further that you can reflect upon on those 2 points, Nicola.
So I think the 2 things are really intrinsically linked together because you need to make sure that your careers leader absolutely understands whole school improvement and development priorities, because they can use careers as a mechanism and a lever to actually help support the achievement of whole school improvement and priorities. And obviously that will be different in every institution, but I think it's really clear as a head or a school leader, you ask and enable your careers leader to articulate how their vision for careers across your school or college links to the whole school vision, because the 2 things have to come together. And if I think back to my time as a head, I can liken this to initiatives, whole school initiatives like literacy. Back in the day, we used to have those conversations where everybody would say, oh, literacy, that's the job of the English department. We all know now that's absolute nonsense. And until careers is treated as a whole school initiative in the same kind of way that we do that, then we're not going to really make any traction with it. And if you just put this into perspective on a curriculum level, when you think about how every child in your cohort needs to be exposed to be able to manage their own careers and have the information to make really positive and sound choices moving forward, you would never offer half of your children GCSE maths. So why should we offer half or a proportion of our children access to different information and activities that will help them make those really critical decisions for their futures? Because that's what this is all about. It's more than a careers interview and personal guidance. It's about the whole suite of activities that will enable them to take them through their careers from start to finish.
Nicola, can I just...
Sorry, carry on.
Can I just very, very quickly say that I completely agree with what Nicola said, and I think that having someone on the senior team whose job is his careers and actually making sure they've got the capacity to deal with that, as we've done, has made a huge difference too, because that is part of their job. They are therefore very much more motivated to make sure that it happens. So by working with a careers leader and having someone then round the team and in governance reports, we're always talking about it, and that makes a huge difference.
Yeah, I certainly think from the UniConnect Aspire Higher project that we're seeing more and more careers leads aligning themselves more closely and working with senior leadership teams. And I think that's essential to get the messages out about careers across the entire school. And then from our point of view, that also supports broadening that message about the students making well-informed decisions about higher education. So they're able to disseminate that information to heads of departments as well. So I think it's critical, really.
So something that also just changed whilst we were talking, I said that the numbers were changing and the votes were still coming in. And actually, whilst we were just talking, one of the other success factors shot up the chart. And it was interesting to me because in my role, working directly with careers leaders in schools, I appreciate some of the heads may or may not have met myself and my colleagues who are enterprise coordinators. Our role is to work with your careers leaders and support them in meeting Gatsby benchmarks and developing strategy in school. And that's part of why we were so keen to talk to you as heads about how you can support that today. Something that's just shot up the chart is the committed amount of time and resources given to careers leaders. And I can absolutely say that in my time working with schools, that has had a significant impact, that and the leadership influence. The amount of time that I times that I meet careers leaders, and they have so many other commitments and so many other things they can juggle. And I absolutely appreciate that, that can't be avoided all the time. But giving a careers leader the opportunity to actually invest time and resources, either their own or somebody else's, has always had a significant impact every time I've come across it. And I'm sure others would agree.
Yeah, and I think that if you really start to consider the return on investment of paying somebody who's not a teacher to lead careers in your school and college versus all those really difficult conversations you need to have with teachers about adding extra responsibilities onto their roles when they're already incredibly overwhelmed and juggling all kinds of other balls, you will. I am more aware than anybody of how constrained school budgets are, but if you think about value for money and return on investment, a full-time or even part-time dedicated careers leader will pay for itself over and over again in terms of the progress you make for your school or college in this type of situation.
Absolutely. So I guess that's a quick initial assessment of the polls. Happy to share more in-depth feedback if any school wants to hear it, but back over to you then, Stuart.
Thank you. You almost got that right. Thank you so much for that and for sharing that feedback on the polls. And it's great that people are interacting with this particular session in that way. So thank you for sharing those and also for people taking part on the chat. And just wanted to, the time we've got left, and I'm conscious of time, there is a theme around virtual work experience which kept coming up on the chat. And I know colleagues at CEC, Nicola, have helped you there to answer some of that information on the live chat itself. But can we just go around the room about that? And because Guisborough, I think I'm pronouncing that right, Guisborough Academy, sorry if I've got the name wrong, any advice with relation to work experience this academic year will be greatly appreciated. Is there a plan for a whole cohort virtual offering offered locally? Nicola, I know you've got a few thoughts on this. Can we start the ball rolling with yourself on this point?
Yeah, I think this is really interesting, and it's the hottest topic that's coming across my team at the moment in particular. And I think we just need to have a think about how long virtual work experience has been in the arena, because I've got people saying to me all the time, when are you going to evaluate the impact of virtual work experience and tell us what good looks like and what is quality and what's not? 4 months ago, we were still having conversations about whether virtual work experience was going to be valuable or not. It took the first couple of months of lockdown for people to believe in the whole of the system that actually this way of working was going to continue for really quite a long period of time. Now we've seen an absolute explosion in the types of offers that are available, and there are companies that are growing exponentially. So a company called Speakers for Schools would be a really good place for you to start to look at virtual work experience programs that are being delivered at scale. The challenge at the moment is those programs are literally cropping up day by day by day. So what we're trying to do is share them with careers leaders directly, either through the Careers Leader Digital Communications, which come out twice per half term. So if your careers leader in school is not registered to receive the Careers and Enterprise Company newsletter, then they really should be, because we distill that information for you. And then our network colleagues do an absolutely fantastic job of taking the information one step further and localizing it and making it absolutely pertinent to your individual locality. So really, a careers leader should be looking for two key things in their inboxes: any communication nationally from CEC and any local communication from their enterprise coordinator, because we're doing the work behind the scenes to try and give you some steer around what's good quality and what can be delivered at scale, and then what might be happening in your area overall. We've got a big piece of work to do in terms of trying to kind of quality assure and assess what's happening in that space so that we can really determine what good looks like. But I think when your careers leader is considering virtual work experience, the most important thing to think about is it interactive for the individual student, and how does it contribute to their overall careers program? Because it's one thing sitting 100 kids down in front of a broadcast, but that doesn't constitute work experience and wouldn't contribute towards benchmark 6. If you go back to the summer, we released a programme called My Week of Work in June in partnership with Learn Live. And those resources are now hosted on our resource directory. They are not a perfect work experience programme, but what they can certainly be used for is preparing your whole cohort for sector exploration. There are some projects that they can take part in to interact with, and they're a good preparatory activity to either run as a whole week or break down into different sessions to lead into then more personalised virtual work experience offers and opportunities for young people. And embedded within the teacher guide of that programme is a section on virtual work experience, and there are some examples of different companies who are offering that at the moment. But the real range at the moment is there are those that are like Speakers for Schools, who do the legwork for you and convene all the employers in the background, or there are specific employer-led offers which are being developed by industry themselves, and those are the ones that are a little bit harder for us to track because they might well be unique to your particular areas. But
Can I say
to this space, basically.
Yeah.
Sorry, Rachel.
No, it's okay.
No.
Rachel, have you got anything to add to that?
Only just a quick one. For example, some of our students who aspire to be doctors, they do virtual work experience for medics through the University of Brighton and Sussex. And there are lots of virtual work experience opportunities for those who want to go through law. So I think, again, it's about having your careers leader find you the right spaces within which to find those opportunities, which prove very useful for the students. But I agree, it needs to be really interactive to be useful.
I think what's really, really important as well, though, is that careers leaders in schools and colleges come together with their enterprise coordinator in a local network, because you learn so much faster from each other. You know, nobody wants to reinvent the wheel, and you can bet your bottom dollar that someone else will be doing something that is a great idea that you can then hook into.
Thank you both. Simon, I know I can see you agreeing along with that. Was there anything that you wanted to add?
I'd just say it's not in terms of virtual work experience, but from an Aspire Higher point of view, we, as I spoke about in the presentation, we're constantly trying to develop new resources. And I think the kind of angle that we take on this is to very much support the other work that's being done around virtual work experience. So we have resources around like meet the employer videos and things like that, where they talk about the types of career paths and routes they've gone through to get to the positions where they're at within their companies, and what kind of transferable skills and core competencies they've required to get to the positions that they're in. So yeah, I'd say from a virtual work experience point of view, the kind of things that we're developing kind of just support the other things that are out there.
I'm just going to check in with Alexis. Is there any further updates on the polling?
No, actually, I am pondering through some of the feedback. It does make for interesting reading. It's interesting to see, particularly kind of reflecting on where schools feel that they are currently and where they feel that the greatest impact's going to be. But I guess we are still getting results coming in, but the trends are very much established in terms of the things that we've already reflected on.
Thank you.
So, it's all really encouraging, I think, because actually what we're kind of identifying is investments in the right areas.
So can I just pick up on a question as well that's just been added into the live chat? It's around whether virtual work experience will be included for Gatsby.
You beat me to it, Nicola. I was just going to ask you that question, but you go for it.
Sorry. So we at the beginning of the can do guide it's in the Kerry's put it in the link in the chat as a link this afternoon, and it's also on the resource directory. It gives some guidance in there around benchmarks, 5, 6 and 7, to be honest, in terms of virtual encounters. And I've also had a conversation with the National Lead for Careers from Ofsted as well recently. And whilst Obviously, inspections aren't underway at the moment, and when they restart is anybody's guess. But their take is that, technically speaking, if you can answer the so what in the context of the young person and the cohort that are engaging in work experience, and you can demonstrate the impact of that activity, then there is no real difference between virtual work experience and physical face-to-face work experience, because it comes back to that interactivity and how is that pieced into the overall careers program for that young person. So virtual are as relevant as face-to-face, particularly in this context, but only when planned and thought through and the impact is considered for the young person. And I would be expecting, as a careers leader or a school leader, to be able to articulate that impact and planning process as part of any inspection discussion, or in terms of how you're meeting the benchmarks. Because if you're not able to consider the impact on the young person, then the chances are it's not of value anyway.
I completely agree with you on that. We did something because we were desperate to make sure that people had opportunities, and we sort of changed our Take Your Child to Work Day, which would have hit massive numbers of students, and created a booklet which was really clear about impact and the tasks that they would have to do. And that has been really, really positive, but has taken up a lot of time for our careers leader to ensure that the work is done and the paperwork's completed. But again, that's another good way of increasing your numbers, which looks good for you on your Gatsby benchmarks, but more so hits a lot of children, which is really what's important.
Thank you, Rachel. We're almost out of time, sadly, and I know a couple of questions earlier were asking about the resources that we've discussed, the presentations, and obviously recording of this broadcast. Simon, this will be made available to all, won't it, people who registered for this event?
Yes, absolutely.
Great stuff. And we will make this available as soon as possible for people to watch back, for those who may have missed it or want to watch it back. And thank you for Kerry as well, putting lots of great links on there from the CEC. That's really helpful today, having someone in the background sharing links. I wouldn't have liked to read out that link for the manual Meaningful Encounters guide, that's for sure. So thank you, Kerry, for doing that one. Any final thoughts as I go around the room on what we've discussed? Obviously, we've not had a chance really to go through, I suppose, a post-Brexit labour market, what that might look like. But, I mean, Nicola, are you hopeful for where this is going with virtual? Do you think this, I mean, it's still learning, I guess, aren't we? We're all learning in this new world we're into now.
Well, I think that, I mean, there will always be a place for face-to-face activity and what comes from that. But we've got to be realistic about the fact that this is how we are now working. You know, my entire professional life is conducted over a computer screen. I am very aware of graduates and young people who are entering the labour market having never set foot in the company that they're going to start their career with, and their entire recruitment process is conducted virtually. So we have to prepare young people to be able to interact and respond in this way, because it is what's happening in the now. And whether that changes significantly in the future, who knows? It remains to be seen. But I think for me, there is also some real power in virtual encounters in the context of some of the industry sectors that are really hard to reach in a face-to-face way. And geographically across the country, some schools and colleges have really difficult challenges in terms of making sure that young people have access to a range of different opportunities and sectors. And the virtual world actually is bringing us closer together in terms of how we can really make sure that everybody can access everything. The other thing, there is two other positives that are being reported to us continually about virtual encounters. And one is that employers feel that they can deliver at scale in a way that they maybe not have been able to do before. So they might only have been able to take one placement student face to face, but maybe they could take 5 or 6 in a virtual way because the workload for them doesn't change. And the other positive factor for us that we're hearing about is that actually virtual encounters can be, in some instances, very inclusive, particularly for some young people with SEND or with social and emotional anxieties that they might find really difficult to access a face-to-face workplace environment. And so there are obviously counter arguments to that, but there are some real positives that are coming through as well. So I think that it's here to stay, but I think that we will keep moving fast in this arena, and it will just get better and better as we move forward.
And our children are in such a terrible place at the moment in terms of all their worry that I think that this makes careers even more important, because at the moment they're questioning why bother, what's the point?
Yeah.
And I do believe, even down to, well, there might not even be exams, but if we can show them the potential of what could excite them in the future, from whatever they're interested in, then actually that's our moral purpose too. So perhaps if we're looking at mental health and well-being, then we've got to show them that there is a future, and the way to do it at the moment will be virtually, but we can do that much more easily, as Nicola said.
And I think on that note as well, building on what Rachel has said there, schools in particular and colleges are the masters of opportunity. That's what we do. We show young people what opportunities are and how they can take them. And everything that they're seeing outside of school at the moment is negative. Media influences are negative. Reporting around careers and opportunities is really negative. But there are opportunities out there. There are growth sectors that are developing at the moment in this type of context. And I know that young people are in the best place ever when they're in their schools and colleges to make sure that they can be connected into those opportunities. And really that's what this is all about. And this is why, as school leaders, we all have an intrinsic responsibility to really make this come alive for young people. And if we move our mindsets away from careers as we knew it when we were at school and think about future opportunities, it's there for the taking.
I think what's really important, I'm going to give you a clap as well. What's really important is to make sure that we just keep working in innovative ways, isn't it? And keep pushing these opportunities, forward for the young people that we support.
Absolutely. Well, listen, if we leave it there, and I'll leave it on what Nicola said there, it's a perfect way to finish, I think, summarising what this is all about. And the future is bright, and I think we've just obviously got to adapt to this new technology. People are doing that already, including Rachel's school, clearly. So thank you, Rachel, for sharing what you're doing there in your school and the successes you've had as well at Beaconsfield. So thank you for that. And thank you, Alexis, for giving us those poll updates as we've been going along. I'm sure more will come from that. And Simon, thank you for making this all happen in the first place at UniConnect. It's been great to work with you on this particular broadcast. So that's it. As I say, a copy of this recording will be made available as soon as possible. You get an email if you've registered for this event, and it'll be hosted on UniConnect and also on Learn Live channel as well. Just want to wish everybody who's joined us enjoy the rest of your week and stay safe. So another lockdown now for all of us again to get used to from tomorrow, but hopefully it doesn't affect you too much where you are. Thanks all to the panel. So Rachel, to Alexis, to Nicola, and finally to Simon as well. Thank you for today, and enjoy the rest of your evening, everybody. Take care.
Bye-bye. Bye.
Welcome to this live chat facility tutorial. We have had a lot of questions recently about the chat facility and how to use it, so let's get into the video. The chat facility is built with students in mind, with a tool that doesn't need to be parent or teacher led. Each of our pages are linked to the person behind the broadcast, even after it's finished, so you can always ask your questions and get a response about the broadcast. So, let's have a look at how to use the chat facility. To use the chat facility, the first thing to do is to type your comment or question into the chat box. You can now enter your screen name. Your screen name will show when you type your question or comment. Now you will see the chat facility ask for your email address. As I mentioned before, each of our pages are linked to people from the organisation who can reply to your questions. You can enter your email address, which will not be shared with anyone, to get a direct response from the people behind the broadcast. If you do not want a direct response, then click the button at the bottom. People behind the broadcast can still respond to you if you don't provide your email address. This just means you may have to come back to the page to check the response. To type your question, simply click on the chat box. You will then see two symbols appear. The @ symbol will mean your comment or question will be posted publicly for others to see. The email symbol means your comment or question can be sent directly to the person of your choice from the list that will appear. You can now speak to the people behind the broadcast and ask any questions you may have, or check out our partner pages to see the companies we work with who you can speak to right now about their current vacancies. You can also check out our careers page, which connects you to employers. Our live chat service is linked 24/7 to employers from a wide range of sectors, all waiting to hear from you. You can leave a question about how to produce a professional CV or how to prepare for interviews, anything work related, and one of our businesses will respond to you directly. You can also access a wide variety of live interactive broadcasts and video on demand with the live chat support on all pages. Now, this bit is for the parents, guardians, and teachers. The best bit about the live chat facility is that it is completely moderated, so you don't need to worry if your young person leaves a silly comment, as it will only show on their screen and no one else's. Another great thing about the chat facility is that it is GDPR protected, so no information is shared with anyone else. We will protect all email addresses and will never share personal information of the young people. If you have any questions about the chat facility or the Learn Live channel, please use the email us icon at the top of the page. Thank you, stay safe and stay tuned. Welcome to this live chat facility tutorial. We have had a lot of questions recently about the chat facility and how to use it, so let's get into the video. The chat facility is built with students in mind, with a tool that doesn't need to be parent or teacher led. Each of our pages are linked to the person behind the broadcast, even after it's finished, so you can always ask your questions and get a response about the broadcast. So, let's have a look at how to use the chat facility. To use the chat facility, the first thing to do is to type your comment or question into the chat box. You can now enter your screen name. Your screen name will show when you type your question or comment. Now you will see the chat facility ask for your email address. As I mentioned before, each of our pages are linked to people from the organisation who can reply to your questions. You can enter your email address, which will not be shared with anyone, to get a direct response from the people behind the broadcast. If you do not want a direct response, then click the button at the bottom. People behind the broadcast can still respond to you if you don't provide your email address. This just means you may have to come back to the page to check the response. To type your question, simply click on the chat box. You will then see two symbols appear. The @ symbol will mean your comment or question will be posted publicly for others to see. The email symbol means your comment or question can be sent directly to the person of your choice from the list that will appear. You can now speak to the people behind the broadcast and ask any questions you may have, or check out our partner pages to see the companies we work with who you can speak to right now about their current vacancies. You can also check out our careers page, which connects you to employers. Our live chat service is linked 24/7 to employers from a wide range of sectors, all waiting to hear from you. You can leave a question about how to produce a professional CV or how to prepare for interviews, anything work related, and one of our businesses will respond to you directly. You can also access a wide variety of live interactive broadcasts and video on demand with the live chat support on all pages. Now, this bit is for the parents, guardians and teachers. The best bit about the live chat facility is that it is completely moderated, so you don't need to worry if your young person leaves a silly comment, as it will only show on their screen and no one else's. Another great thing about the chat facility is that it is GDPR protected, so no information is shared with anyone else. We will protect all email addresses and will never share personal information of the young people. If you have any questions about the chat facility or the Learn Live channel, please use the email us icon at the top of the page. Thank you, stay safe and stay tuned. Welcome to this live chat facility tutorial. We have had a lot of questions recently about the chat facility and how to use it, so let's get into the video. The chat facility is built with students in mind, with a tool that doesn't need to be parent or teacher led. Each of our pages are linked to the person behind the broadcast, even after it's finished, so you can always ask your questions and get a response about the broadcast. So, let's have a look at how to use the chat facility. To use the chat facility, the first thing to do is to type your comment or question into the chat